Some of the things we're going to be talking about. The World Trade Center attack, not in 2001, but rather in 1993 with a 1,500-pound truck bomb. Less than a dozen people were killed, more than 1,000 were injured. We didn't know it at the time, but this was perpetrated by nascent elements of Al-Qaeda. We're going to hear about the embassy bombings in Dar es Salaam and Nairobi, perpetrated also by Al-Qaeda. Bombings that 2 weeks later we responded to with cruise missile attacks on the Sudan and on Afghanistan in an attempt to destroy elements of the Al-Qaeda network and possibly to kill Osama bin Laden. However, at the time, August 1998, our attention, the American public's attention, was not on Nairobi and Kenya and the massive suicide bombings that killed hundreds of people. Rather, it was on a dress purchased from the Gap, which had been stained by President Clinton. Yes, this was the height of the Monica Lewinsky scandal. And many people in the media accused the Clinton administration of launching these cruise missile attacks against the Sudan and Afghanistan as a means to divert our attention from his sexual scandal. We're also going to hear about an attack on a United States destroyer, the USS Cole, while in port in Yemen, one of the countries on the southern border of Saudi Arabia, that happened just weeks before the 2000 election between George Bush and Al Gore. We're also going to hear about a failed terrorist attack, the so-called Millennium Plot. It's called Millennium Plot because it was broken up in the summer of 1999. Its goal was the destruction of Los Angeles International Airport. As I said, we're going to be hearing from two of these key witnesses here. 24th of March, Richard Clarke, counterterrorism czar, chief, administrator, whatever we want to call him, testified before the 9/11 Commission. His quote here sums up his opinion quite nicely. Although there were people in the FBI, CIA, Defense Department, State Department, and White House who worked very hard to destroy Al-Qaeda before it did catastrophic damage to the U.S., there were many others who found the prospect of significant Al-Qaeda attacks remote. In both CIA and the military, there was reluctance at senior career levels to utilize fully all the capabilities available. There was risk aversion. At the senior policy levels in the Clinton administration, there was an acute understanding of the terrorist threat, particularly Al-Qaeda. That understanding resulted in a vigorous program to counter Al-Qaeda, including lethal covert action, but it did not include a willingness to resume bombing Afghanistan, parentheses, after the August 1998 cruise missile attack. The Bush administration saw terrorism policy as important, but not urgent, prior to 9/11. The difficulty in obtaining the first cabinet level, or principals, policy meeting on terrorism, and the limited principals involvement sent unfortunate signals to bureaucracy about the administration's attitude toward the Al-Qaeda threat. Principals is something we're going to hear a lot about. A principal is a cabinet-level secretary, Secretary of Defense, Secretary of State, Attorney General. Each of these cabinet-level secretaries have a deputy, Secretary of State, deputy, Secretary of Defense, etc. So with that said, I'm going to turn the floor over now to Richard Clarke. What we're going to see first is a rather remarkable admission. Let's go to the tape.
I also welcome the hearings because it is finally a forum where I can apologize to the loved ones of the victims of 9/11, to them who are here in the room, to those who are watching on television. Your government failed you. Those entrusted with protecting you failed you. And I failed you. We tried hard. But that doesn't matter because we failed. And for that failure, I would ask, once all the facts are out, for your understanding and for your forgiveness. With that, Mr. Chairman, I'll be glad to take your questions.